What's up, everyone? William here with Quiz2Quist Lessons. Today I'm going to do a lesson on modes requested by Dylan, a longtime student of mine. We can't meet in person because of COVID-19. So that kind of sucks, but that also means that all you other viewers out there get in on this lesson. So that's cool. Thank you, Dylan. What is a mode? How is it different than a scale? Well, a mode is a scale, but it's a scale derived from a scale. Does that sound confusing? Yes, probably. Let me explain. So with any scale that you have, let's take C major, for example. There's a certain amount of notes, and usually you choose one of those as the tonic note. So if you're in C major, C is your tonic note. You get C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and you're back at C. Okay, so there's 7 different notes. What if I kept the same collection of notes, but started at a different note than C? Let's say I started at F and went F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. I would get a pretty different sound, right? But I didn't sharp anything, I didn't flat anything. I'm just using a mode of C. So we're still like in the world of C, but now C has a different function. C is no longer the tonic, okay? So however many notes there are in a scale, there are that many modes of that scale. So the pentatonic scale, we all know, has 5 notes. That means it has 5 modes. You could just start at the second note, end at the second note, and that's a different mode of it. Okay, so what I'm going to demonstrate to you today is the first mode patterns. There are 2 octave patterns that I learned when I first started getting into modes, when I was really trying to connect my fretboard all the way up and down. These are what were useful to me, so that's what I'm going to share with you today. Obviously, on the guitar you can do just about anything 3 or 4 different ways at least. So this is just one way. After you understand modes, you can definitely play them in different ways. You don't have to stick to these patterns that I gave you. And people, post these patterns everywhere. You can Google image search, whatever. But I did find these to be very useful. They're mostly 4-fret patterns. Every once in a while, they'll slip outside of that square, but it's easy to come right back to it. So yeah, I'm showing you the 7 modes of G major. Here's G major on 1 string. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So for each of those notes, we're going to build a mode. All right, I'll give you the name, I'll play it, and then I'll kind of tell you what I hear and why that might be useful. Okay, so starting at G, we have our first mode. It is just the G major scale, but we call it the Ionian mode. Ionian, okay, built on the first scale degree. It goes like this. Ta-da, okay? So that's the scale that we're all very familiar with. We've heard it a dozen times. We've heard it in our warm-ups. Most modern music that you hear on the radio kind of revolves around that scale or mode. So nothing too crazy there. Next, we're going to start on A. This is the 2nd scale degree. From the 2nd scale degree, we get the Dorian mode. Okay, so it sounds minor-y, but it's a little bit lifted. And it's because of that note. Because of the 6 of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're used to hearing that flat. So there it is again. And so it's minor, but it has a brightness to it. So that's Dorian. Built on the 3rd scale degree is the Phrygian mode. Here it is. Here it is again. So minor, but it's instead of lifted like the Dorian is one, it's kind of subdued. It's a little bit darker. It's because of that note right there. Okay. The next 1, 2, 3, 4 built off the 4th scale degree. This is C, and we're playing C Lydian. So that is a major sound, but it's more lifted than our typical major one, because that 4th we're used to hearing there. So it's lifted. There it is. So kind of floaty and airy. Somehow like more major than the major scale. I really like Lydian. Okay, the next one is Mixolydian. It's built on the 5th scale degree. So G, A, B, C, D. It's Mixolydian. It's a pretty strong scale. It just doesn't have the lifted 7. That's what we're used to hearing. Okay, so it's major, but not as lifted. Next, we're on E. This is the 6th scale degree, and we get Aeolian. This is the natural minor scale as well, or Aeolian. Sorry, I'll play that again so you can see it on the screen. I shouldn't be playing this high on the acoustic, but there we are. It's Aeolian built on the 6th scale degree. Next would be Locrian, built on the 7th scale degree. I am going to play this octave of it. Okay, so it's right below where we started. Makes sense, right? You can go 1 to 7, or you can go 8 to 7. It's easier. Okay, so here's Locrian. Very unresolved sounding mode, and that's because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th scale degree of this mode is diminished, rather than that has more resolve to it, but this is the tritone. Okay, lots of tension. There's the 7th mode of G major. So that's all of them. Those are the patterns that I learned. Here's what I'd suggest that you do with these. You can learn them the way that I just did. And so on, learning them within one key, right, within G. So that you can hear how they all stay in the same world. I think that's pretty important to understand. Along the way, you'll also be seeing the overlap between these modes. I just covered this whole fretboard. We didn't miss anything in G, except for these notes down here, right? But it's pretty much the guitar. So learning all the modes in that way gives you a comprehensive understanding of whatever key you're in. But you could also learn it by staying on one note and then really hearing the difference. So let's say we were doing A and we used the Ionian scale. We would go, and then let's change it to Phrygian. You can hear how it's the same tonic, but it's totally different feel. Let's try Lydian then. So botched that. Let me try it again. Okay. Compared to the Ionian, the normal major. And so doing it this way is going to challenge you more because you're going to have to like keep some of the steps that you're using but erase some of the steps and make new ones. So like it can be confusing in a good way, and that it makes you really stop and think. Okay. So you want to memorize these 7 as quick as you can, and just get them under your fingers. Get the muscle memory there. I'm a little bit rusty right now, but when I first started learning these, like I would just run through them until my attention span ran out. But like if I was sitting in front of the TV watching a documentary or something, that's perfect time to just run through the modes. Okay, and it exercises all these different finger combinations as well. Get subtle shifts in there. It's going to be good for your technique, as well as your ear, as well as your understanding of your fretboard. Okay, so memorize them. Disclaimer on that, or just like extra note, I should say, is that like I don't think where you see a lot of overlap between 2 scales, like it's not that important that you know. So like here's the major scale. The difference between that and Locrian, between Ionian and Locrian, is I'm just starting right underneath it, right? This is true for all the modes. They overlap with each other. So like what's most important is that you understand what scale degree you start with to get that certain mode. Let's review that one more time. Ionian, 1st scale degree. Dorian, 2nd scale degree. Phrygian, 3rd scale degree. Lydian, 4th scale degree. Mixolydian, 5th scale degree. Aeolian, 6th scale degree. Locrian, 7th scale degree. And in that sense, you don't even really need all these. You can just, if you know a pattern really well, you can just start in a different place and know what mode you're using. I hope that makes sense. Definitely feel free to leave questions in the comments, or Dylan, you can just call me on the phone. So yeah, I would tie these all together. For me, just to reiterate that last point that I made is I can connect pretty much the entire octave of G by just using major, Phrygian, and the Aeolian. So like with 3 scales, I can cover all the notes. Here's what I mean. You're probably tired of hearing these. And then I'm up here. And I can like skip up to that minor scale, and I've covered, right? Like I've covered everything in basically just 3 modes. The modes in between them overlap between the 2. Okay, it's really important to understand. Still learn all of them, but just know that eventually you're gonna start. The goal is to start seeing them all as part of one whole. It's just one world. When I'm in the key of G, I've got one certain world that's occurring on the guitar. Notes that I do want to hit and notes that I probably don't want to hit, inside and outside. Or when I'm in the key of C, a different set of notes, a different set of patterns kind of lights up on the guitar for me in my mind's eye. Okay, so like that's what's most important, is that you're just building like the complete map. That's one very big use of the modes, is just filling out your map. The other use for modes that I want to talk about before ending this lesson is that in your composing, you can use the modes to create different colors. So I was trying to describe the different feelings of these modes as I went through them. If you are arranging something at home, let's say you're making an electronic piece, since Dylan, I know you like to put together electronic stuff as well as organic stuff. You can give yourself, instead of like using E minor, you could say, well, I want it to be minor, but I want it to be a little bit more happy, like not as dark. Then you might use E Dorian, which is gonna have that raised sixth. Or if you want it to be E minor but a darker version of E minor, then use the Phrygian mode, because it's gonna flat that second, and that extra flat is going to darken the flavor of that song that you're making. I hope that makes sense. These should just open up your ear to more colors than you might have had in your palette before this lesson. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This has been fun. See you later.